UFC 312 just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire card. Going to start from fight number one and then work my way up to the main event. Let's jump right into it. Fight one, we had Salkilld versus Anshul Jubli. 19 seconds, one punch, Jubli goes down, referee jumps in and stops it. It was a perfect straight shot by Salkilld, but I do think that the ref jumped in like a little too early. The way Jubli went down was bad, but my God, can you at least give the guy like 2 seconds to try and scramble? Like in boxing, there's a 10 count, but in MMA, if you drop and it looks bad, let's say the ref just jumps in, but what if you're bursting right back up to your feet? Why not give him a second? Like, yes, if Salkilld hits him again and then Jubli's done, you can hop in and stop the fight. But why just stop it? First clip. Down he goes. Yes, it looked bad visually, but he was getting up to a single leg. Was he probably going to get finished? Yeah. But would it be better to give a conclusive end than a questionable like finish of the stoppage? Yeah, I think so. Ultimately, Salkilld also got himself Performance of the Night honors. It was a perfect punch. Listen, Salkilld, slick, quick, probably was on his way to knocking him out anyways, but I just think the referee jumped in a second early. I feel like Salkilld looked clean with that one shot. Like, I'm excited for his next fight. But damn, I would have wanted a more, final answer on it. More for the sake even of Jubli, man. The guy put in a training camp. He's out there to fight. Let him fight. Let him get knocked out a little more viciously. One more shot, two more shots, and he's truly out. Like, let it happen. This is fighting. Like, yes, people are going to get knocked out. I get it, safety of the fighter, but then it leads us to question, well, he's a knockdown victim, and then we're just going to jump in and stop it. But how about if he would have scrambled and recovered? Have we not seen guys come back from big knockdowns? We definitely have. I think just give him a shot. A couple more seconds, like 3, 2. Let Salkilld throw a little ground and pound and see what happens. Maybe Jubli scrambles, or maybe he's done. I would rather know for sure. He definitely seemed out of it when he got up to his feet. I'm not saying he was 100%. He was hurt bad. I just wish we would have got a tad bit longer. I don't know. Road to UFC winner Jubli, the face of Indian MMA in 19 seconds. How ironic, man. The face of Indian MMA goes out like that. I'm sad for Indian MMA. I'm upset at this for Indian MMA. Yes, I picked Salkilld. Everybody did. But I wish he would have had a second. Come on, give the guy a second, a little longer. Why you got to call it so quick? They didn't have to call it that fast. Could have gave him 2 seconds, man. The memes are already going crazy. First Indian UFC fighter who's just getting starched down, bro. Respect to some Indians, man. We need some Indian savages coming through, man. I don't know. Jubli, he's just not the face of it, I guess. I mean, he is, but not a good face of it so far. Hopefully they give him one more UFC fight, just against like somebody 0-1 or maybe even against a debuting guys that pop out the Zin. Salkilld, clean W, Performance of the Night winner. I just think it was a little early, but the shot was perfect. Salkilld looks like a decent prospect. He's slick, man. So let's keep running. Next fight on the card, Jonathan Micallef versus Kevin Jousset. Bro, Jonathan Micallef is tough and tricky to deal with on the feet from that southpaw stance. He snaps those body kicks kind of like a prime Luke Rockhold, man. He was absolutely piecing up the body of Jousset, bruising on Jousset's ribs, and not even his ribs, his fucking obliques, really. And it was like looking like it was a little bloody, Snapping kicks, like you could hear them throughout the whole fight. He landed a lot of kicks. I got to tell you, man, I like Micallef's style. He's awkward, little clunky at times on the feet, but consistent, tough, decent cardio. Round 3, he lost. Kevin Jousset gave him, a bit of a challenge in that third round. He was getting backed up a bit. Jousset landed some decent punches. Wasn't anything like sensational in round 3, but Jousset was more active. Micallef's still a young guy, but I don't know. He's just an interesting signing. He's got a very strange build, right? Really long arms, pretty jacked at 6 feet. I like his game, man. I picked him to win this fight, and I think a lot of people were surprised by the result, but what I noticed about him is like a very good pressure style with awkwardness. He actually has good jiu-jitsu too, but wasn't really on display against Jousset here. Good win for Jonathan Micallef, man. I felt like Jousset was a little stiff. Like he's like a board at times. And Jousset being a bit more, excuse me, Jonathan Micallef being a bit more mobile. I thought that he probably had a chance versus Jousset in this one. I like that he won though. I'm trying to think of like his level. I don't know. He reminds me of Brian Battle in some weird way. Is that delusional of me? Maybe. Like Forrest Griffin, Brian Battle, like that archetype of athleticism. Like just awkward, not like super athletic, just weird. Interesting builds, long arms, like a little bit of an unorthodox style. But yeah, good win for Micallef, man. That's honestly a solid debut win. You said it was 2-1 in the UFC. Rongzhu, Cody Steele. The O had got to go. Rongzhu outdogged Cody Steele. Cody Steele was getting wild from the outside. Now, he was able to hurt Rongzhu early in round one, but then Rongzhu hurt him. He was having success. And like Steele, he doesn't always set his feet. Like he'll be throwing wide shots from the outside. And he falls in love with his hands and he likes to brawl. Like he's a grappler first on paper, but in reality, he's a striker in MMA. He's not a high caliber wrestler. He has okay takedown attempts, but Rongzhu was able to fend off anything Steele was bringing to him as far as the wrestling. So Rongzhu clipping Steele from the outside with counters, it just kind of looked like a veteran lesson. But to be fair, Rongzhu's a prospect still. He's not even 25 yet. He's got 32 MMA fights. He got cut from the UFC on his first go, going 1-3, and then he just lost his UFC comeback fight against Padilla. But Chris Taco Padilla is tricky to deal with, man. He's an experienced vet, true, and like Steele, only having 7 fights coming into it. The reason I picked Rongzhu is I thought maybe the experience difference would be a factor, and Steele gets a little wild from the outside. Like on paper, he's a jiu-jitsu fighter. But in reality, he's a striker in MMA. He likes to brawl, too. He's much more of a brawler. And he's got a fun style, but Rongzhu beat him up. Steele showed a lot of toughness, though. He's not super young, but, I mean, he's still in that prospect category. Like, you have to somewhat say that he's still a prospect, right? How old is Cody Steele right now? Cody Steele's 29. Bro, 7-1, 29. Just got absolutely checked by Rongzhu. I don't know if his ceiling is as high as the hype that he had at one point. I don't know. He had like the, jiu-jitsu community hyping him up a bit. And then, the reality is he didn't have high caliber wrestling and he's more of an MMA striker. And Rongzhu, underrated. He's training with City Kickboxing now. You guys saw Eugene Behrman in the corner. So he's made evolutions to his game. Like this Rongzhu here is not the same Rongzhu that fought in the UFC in 2022. Because, like, bro, at that time he was 21. Now, almost 25. He's had some time to grow as a fighter, and he's definitely made improvements. This was a badass fight. It ended up winning fight of the night. It was a fun back and forth. Steele was swinging for the fences throughout the whole thing, too. Like, even though he was getting absolutely cracked and he was busted up, he still tried. So, like, you have to give Steele the respect for the dog that he showcased. Like, he's definitely a tough fighter. He just doesn't throw a jab, really. Not super evolved with the stand-up. I'll be honest with you, man. I think he's got to work more wrestling. I know he's got decent jiu-jitsu. You can see the grappling knowledge even when he had the leg at one point of Rongzhu. But at the end of the day, if he can't get fights to the ground, no matter how good his actual jiu-jitsu skills are, it's not going to be showcased in MMA. Like his MMA wrestling work needs to be a focus. I think because he's so good at pure jiu-jitsu, right? He ends up not working as much on the grappling aspect of things to focus on shoring up the, potential lack of takedown threat and focusing a lot on his stand-up. And you've seen his stand-up game his stand-up's not bad. He's just a little reckless, man. And he's the style that can bully people, but veterans can take advantage of that are more technical. I feel like he needs to work his wrestling because I think takedown threats are actually going to help his MMA career. He doesn't need to be like, he's fighting almost like a Gaethje type. Obviously, he's nowhere near the level of Gaethje, and I'm not saying he's the next Gaethje by any means, but former high-level wrestler turned MMA fighter that more is doing anti-wrestling. In essence, Cody Steele mostly was trying to strike, but he did shoot 4 takedowns. So I think you should work that arsenal a bit more. Maybe just dial into the wrestling a bit. And fuck, man, he's got to just tighten that jab up. If he can get a jab going, that helps his game. For Rongzhu, good counters, nice shots from the outside. hit Steele with everything he could. Steele's just tough. So he unable to put him away, but clear W. Rongzhu, certified gangster win, and good UFC comeback, man. I'm looking forward to more. Next up was Topuria and Thicknesse. We got to see the brother of Ilia Topuria, Alexandre, showcase. He looked pretty well-rounded. I know that he was harshly judged. Could see it, in the comments of the live stream. He was harshly judged by the chat because of his performance not being a violent finish, but a calculated win. Dropped Thicknesse at one point, slammed him, nice suplex. Good control in the grappling, good patience in the striking. I mean, it's a UFC debut, and Thicknesse was still undefeated coming in and a training partner of Volkanovski. Like, yeah, he was a big underdog, and he took it on short notice, but I would consider Thicknesse a relatively talented prospect that I think probably could have won a fight if he would have fought on, Contender Series, and might have been incoming on a UFC contract next year anyways. Instead, steps into this big spot against Alexandre Topuria and, makes Topuria look human, but I don't think that it's the lack of skill so much on Topuria's side. Sure, he's not ready for the highest heights in the game yet. I mean, he's got 7 pro fights. But I think it's also attributed to Kody Thicknesse being like an okay level. He's not bad. He was definitely a legit prospect coming into this fight. Now for Topuria, the improvements, I assume, will start to show themselves as he finds comfort in the octagon, but I don't think he has the same potential as his brother, right? Because you could say, oh, but look at Ilia Topuria's UFC debut. He had some woes against Youssef Zalal. But to be fair, Topuria, Ilia, the brother, he was 23. Little brother was 23. Alexandre showing potential, but he's 29. So you have to wonder where the ceiling sits at. He definitely seems to have a well-versed tool set and definitely has some wrestling to his base, but I don't know, man. First fight in the UFC, I don't want to judge him too harshly because it's a mix of the UFC woes and, he hadn't fought in a while. If he gets some rhythm going and we get Alexandre Topuria back in the octagon in, let's say, 4 months, I think we could see a better version of what he brought here. And, he can definitely take out some of the back-end guys. Let's go Alexandre Topuria versus Raul Rojas. I'm fucking shafting him. I'm not even saying his name right. Raul Rosas versus Alexandre Topuria. You're not interested in that fight? Come on. Think about the matchup for a second. The striking of Topuria versus the pressure grappling. I feel like Alexandre Topuria would have a legit chance to beat Raul Rosas Jr. I know it might be a little too much to ask for, but with the last name of Topuria, and Rosas is like a relatively popular prospect. If they're looking to do legit prospect versus prospect fight, I don't hate that one, but I'm definitely more of like a sacrificial matchmaker ready to just chop the heads of one of the prospects if we match them up against somebody like that. But that's just the first name that popped to my head, Raul Rosas Jr., and let's find out the level. Because Rosas is a good step up from a debuting Thicknesse. I would have really been interested in seeing Cody Haddon versus Topuria. I do think the wrestling of Topuria would have been a factor in that fight too. And I'd have to say if he's rebooked against Cody Haddon, I think he'll be a favorite this time. Even though, he didn't get the finish here against Thicknesse, still a clear win. Thicknesse will be kept around. I guess it's good for him to get inside of the UFC, even though he starts it off with a loss. Gave an okay showing for himself. Tough against Topuria, but Alexandre is decent, man. He's developing. Still, 29 is not super young in the game, but it's definitely not old. He's got promise. Cong, Wang, Bruna, Brasil. Wang pretty dominant in her striking in the fight. Chopped at the legs of Brasil a bit. Brasil actually chopped at the legs pretty well of fucking Wang as well. She was a little bit bruised up on her calf. It was a decent performance. I don't know. She showed fluidity with her striking. She hit Brasil with some decent shots. Even mixed in a couple takedowns, showing her MMA game. It wasn't the emphatic finish that brings the hype back after a fraud check type loss, like how Gabriela Fernandez dropped her and subbed her last time. But it was like, okay, you can beat another UFC veteran. Now, to be fair, look at Bruna Brasil's picture in front of us. And think of Bruna Brasil when she was inside of the actual octagon versus Kang Wang. She was a lot fatter because she's a strawweight. She's a strawweight, first and foremost. She is not a woman's flyweight. She took this fight and fought in the women's flyweight division against Cong Wang. But at the end of the day, she's still a strawweight. And I feel like she'd be better suited to drop back down I don't think she's getting cut or anything like that. So Wang is able to handle like a relatively good strawweight striker. Okay. Brazil was 2-2 in the UFC, now 2-3 in the UFC. Like, it's a win for sure. It's a decent enough win, but does it convince me that she's surging towards the top 15 at 125? No. I don't know who the hell the UFC is going to match her up with next, because the loss to Fernandez is a rough stain, because Fernandez is, more towards the bottom end of the women's flyweights. But they'll keep her around. I'm sure they use her in, I don't know, next Asia card potentially, or maybe when they're on that side of the world. I guess it's just like the Wang Cong base of fans, the Wang gang that we were starting to grow, kind of lost its fucking its erection, It's lost its fucking momentum a bit. It's lost its thickness, I guess. Now it's kind of, she looks to be okay at best, but we'll tune in. We'll hope for the best. Good win over Bruna, Brasil for Wang. Not a great fight, though. Tom Nolan, Vyacheslav Borshchev. This was a good win. Tom Nolan got a signature victory over a pretty crafty veteran in Vyacheslav Borshchev. Tom Nolan mixed in wrestling in this fight. I said it all week, man. He is an MMA fighter, and he's going to try. He got only 1 takedown on 8. But the fact that he was mixing those takedowns in caused Vyacheslav Borshchev to at least have a worry of a potential takedown, which then therefore I think made Tom Nolan's striking a bit more effective than it typically would have been. He's a good kickboxer, though, for sure. His MMA striking solid. He fights out of southpaw, very tall at 6'3", pretty good kicker. Vyacheslav Borshchev was still throwing decent shots back, but Tom Nolan's defense looked improved. I think the reason Nolan looked good here is, obviously he's developing, but also against a technician, I expected his defense to look better. Was able to outstrike Borshchev, catch him with some decent shots for sure. There was some clean punches, clean kicks too. Nothing that had Borshchev nearly knocked out, but Tom Nolan definitely was ahead. And then at the end of the fight, or towards the end, I should say the final round, Tom Nolan was on the bottom beating up Vyacheslav Borshchev from top. I scored the fight 30-27. One of the judges scored it 30-27 as well, but 2 of them thought that Borshchev won the third, but I don't think he did enough. I think he just had top position, but he essentially did nothing with it. And Tom Nolan cut him from the bottom. So I guess I favor the, grappling and striking from bottom from Nolan over what Borshchev did from top. The game plan from Borshchev in round 3 to me was dumb. Like, he should have just stood up and tried to get the knockout, because he wasn't going to get a submission and he wasn't getting a ground and pound finish. Tom Nolan did what he had to. Definitely won the first 2. I'm saying that he won all 3. Striking looked quality, threatened a bit with grappling, had the back of Borshchev at one point, had a few submission attempts. He was trying for the Darce chokes, but unable to pull through. Respect to Tom Nolan. I'm taking a sip, man. Respect to Nolan. Crafty, veteran-ish. I don't know. Borshchev's kind of a can. He's a good striker, though. And it's a good W for Nolan. He's now 3-1 in the UFC after the really bad debut where he got violently chinned by Nicholas Mota. He's bounced back pretty well since that point. I still don't think Nolan's capable of the higher level at 155, though. Too skinny, too chinny. As he gets up, I still think he's getting dusted. But he isn't bad. He's got a crafty skill set. He's well-versed. You can see that there's been improvements. And, I look forward to the next fight. It's a very matchup specific with Nolan, how well he's going to do in the UFC. Still young, though. To be fair, he's 24, almost 25? Good W for Tom Nolan. Clean win over Vyacheslav Borshchev. And then the featured prelim of the night, Jack Jenkins versus Gabriel Santos. There was a big scare in round number 1. Jenkins dropped Santos with a head kick. That was a terrifying moment. And as Jenkins is, following him up to the ground, I'm thinking, no way. No way. Santos throws up a triangle from bottom, and he nearly has Jenkins in it. Ultimately, he missed the armbar switch, which he probably could have locked up a sub doing so, and was unable to pull through with that. But didn't end up mattering. End of round 1, Santos even lands a takedown. He has success striking. Round 2, Jenkins is throwing hard, but Santos is too clean. He's starting to find home to shots on Jenkins, and he outworked him in the second round, mixing in a little bit of wrestling. Like Gabriel Santos showed a well-versed MMA game. And then in round 3, what really finished off the fight, it was the front kick that rocked Jenkins bad into the takedown attempt by Santos. Then he's able to strangle him with the rear naked and call it wraps in round 3. I thought it was a good performance. I mean, Jenkins was relatively tough, but he was outmatched by a truly talented Brazilian prospect. I mean, you had Charles Oliveira in the corner. He's training with Diego Lima at Chute Box. I feel like Gabriel Santos is like a pretty quality prospect for Brazil right now, 145. I'm not saying he's on, that Oliveira aura, but it's not that far off. Like, the vibes are there, man. I think Gabriel Santos could be pretty good. At one point, I thought Ricardo Ramos was going to be like an Oliveira level Brazilian prospect type. No, bro. I'm saying it's Gabriel Santos. He's crafty. His striking is good. He showed, good toughness and ability to recover after getting dropped with a crazy head kick by Jack Jenkins. But he also showed good striking too, and his grappling was really on point. Gabriel Santos is really good, man. He's a really fucking good prospect. He's well-rounded. I like his potential a ton. 12-2 right now. Good wins outside of the UFC. Beat Elvis Brenner. I think Gabriel Santos has got a pretty good future in MMA. 2-2 in the UFC now. Getting comfortable. But a debut against Lerone Murphy. And the other loss is David Onama, who's now fighting Giga Chikadze. Gabriel Santos, he's had a rough 3, man. And then last time he fought Yi Jia, who was an absolute monster, one of the toughest guys from Asia right now, as far as, at 145. And now he fights Jack Jenkins, definitely the Aussie hope, and does his work with him. Dominates the fight aside from a head kick. So Gabriel Santos is very exciting. And I wonder where he's going to go from here, but I definitely think there's some interesting fights for him. Like a Morgan Charrier fight. I thought about, I don't know, is that far-fetched? I don't think so, because Jack Jenkins' signature wins are Jamal Emmers and Herbert Burns, and he has a loss to Chepe. Something like that. William Gomis could potentially be a fight for Santos. I like Gabriel Santos. I'm looking forward to what's next. I'm definitely a Santos fan, and I'm excited for what he's got in the tank. Let's keep running. Next fight brings us to our main card opener. Jake Matthews, Francisco Prado. Pretty much just a, veteran lesson. Prado had some moments striking, but for the most part was outworked. Did land a takedown in round 1, but that was the only takedown he got. Was unable to do it throughout the fight. Jake Matthews was cleaner on the feet. Timed his shots better. Decent enough counters. Prado looked very young. That's what I thought to myself with Prado. I said, okay, he's young. Like 22, trying to swing these wild shots, but not setting his feet. It's like, all right, he needs to develop. And now he gives up a lot of reach, man. 69-inch reach at 170 is insanely short. You know what sucks about Prado, guys? He is a tweener. He's a 65er. There's no weight class for him. He's one of those guys that would be best at 165. He's a little small for 170, and he's a little too heavy, I guess, for 155. He has a hard time making weight. I think if he really dialed in, he could find a way to make 155. He's a little too stocky, though. Damn, bro. Yeah, he's a 65er. That it doesn't exist. It's like the Kevin Lee situation. He can crack a bit on the feet, but he still has a lot of work to do with his footing. I'm telling you, it's a lot of footwork issues. He doesn't set his feet, and dude, he does not throw a jab nor body shots. I don't get it. He just is a wild hooking headhunter. Yes, it's powerful, and he can swing some bombs, but way out of range a lot, and being, 5'10" with a 69-inch reach at welterweight, he's going to be stuck at range against a lot of guys. So for him to develop, to potentially a higher level, the footwork needs some improvements, and he needs to mix in body work, being one of the shorter welterweights. That would help him. Kind of like what Ilia Topuria does a bit, because Prado has the potential on the, surface, but he's just a headhunter, and that's his biggest downfall. I still think he's a prospect, though. 1-3 in the UFC, though. Damn. I think they keep him around. I mean, he's on a pay-per-view main card. We're not going to see Prado released from the UFC, but you got to give him some cans, man. Jake Matthews is a 25 veteran, 13-7 in the UFC. He's got a fuckload of experience. Prado needs somebody that's like, got 2 to 5 UFC fights and maybe a losing record or 50-50. Like, he shouldn't be fighting crafty veterans. He should be fighting either other prospects or guys that just don't look like they're going to make it. So we'll see what the UFC decides, but I do hope that Prado has a favorable matchup because when he's on, he's got legit fucking power and he's fun to watch. Jake Matthews, though, veteran lesson, good striking, good counters, good quickness, and gets it done. Next fight, Jimmy Crute, Adolfo Bellato. It goes to a draw. Of course, Jimmy Crute's comeback fight ends in a draw. He's got draws in 2 out of his last 3 fights. That's just such a Jimmy Crute thing to happen. Now, the fight started weird, right? Round 1, Bellato looks for the throw, but he just pulls Jimmy Crute on top of him. And then Jimmy Crute controls and works top position for a majority of the first round. Then they do end up getting back to the striking realm, and Bellato gets absolutely rocked on the feet, does the chicken dance. His leg flies behind the other, and he goes down. And Crute, with a little ground and pound late too, got close to a first-round knockout. Then round 2, Bellato starts turning it up. He's recovered. Crute slows down. Bellato's winning the exchanges in close, hitting him with some good body shots, absolutely ripping at the calf. Jimmy Crute's looking a bit uncomfortable on the feet. Round 2, Bellato all day. Round 3, better for Jimmy Crute than round 2, but he still lost. Landed some decent punches, but as did Bellato. Bellato was ripping up the leg. Bellato, I think he caught him with a weird knee on the inside too, if I'm not mistaken. Elbow as well on the inside. Decent hooks with his pressure. Definitely got caught as well, but I thought Bellato did enough to win the 3rd round, so I scored the fight a draw. I was in complete agreement. Round 1 was a 10-8. There was a ton of damage done. It was a beating in round 1. Round 2, 10-9 Bellato. Round 3, 10-9 Bellato. We got a draw. It was a really fun fight, though. It's a weird spot to be in. Does the UFC say, I will run it back? Is Jimmy Crute getting another draw to a rematch? I don't know. I know that win would have been better for Bellato, but a sophomore UFC appearance to draw with Jimmy Crute, who at one point was a good prospect, is not the end of the world. He was the reason the first round even went so bad because he pulled Jimmy Crute on top of him with the mistake. But draw's better than a loss, man. Even fight, ends up going long. It was a pretty good back and forth. Bellato hit him with some good body shots. Crute had some decent straights, but he still slowed down a lot in the later stages of the fight. And Bellato dug deep and gave it hell. Crute was still trying at the end too, though. But dude cannot find the win. It's been years, man. Jimmy Crute just can't get a win. What's he, 0-3-2 in his last 5? Unfortunate, man. Unfortunate for Jimmy Crute. Next fight on the main card. This fight I have a problem with. Justin Tafa got annihilated by Teixeira. But, okay? But, let me bring something up here. Let me bring something up. I just totally clicked on the wrong screen. Let me bring something up. Okay? This shot, I'm fully covering my face, but it's fine. I didn't fully prepare for this. I had it on a different screen. You see this? You see this shot here? It did raise the cup. There was a shot that seemed to hit the groin of Tafa. It's still hitting the cup. It's landing on the cup and moving the cup. It's coming up from there, moving the cup, and then connecting to the body. I'm not trying to absolutely cope for Tafa. At the end of the day, he got stopped and he got hit with his deadly elbow. But there was a shot that hurt him to the body that was not really a body shot. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? He got finished quick. He got pushed backwards, and then he got one low knee, one clean body knee, big elbow, fight over. Yes, there was a connection to the body with the knee, but it also hit the cup and elevated the cup. So, a bit unfair for him. He got kneed with the left leg from Teixeira to the other side bad first, but then kneed a bit low, caught with the perfect elbow. It is what it is. I'm not saying, it's a no contest. They, called it as is in the moment. It was a questionable low shot. But on the rewatch, I could see it obviously lift the cup and move it, which if it lifts the cup, they normally call it as a low blow, which would then therefore cause for a timeout. And then the elbow after, it puts them in a very weird position. I mean, I'm sure Tafa would have continued if there was a timeout, but unfortunately, he ends up getting stopped. He went down. I think after he got caught with the elbow, he was gone, right? And then Teixeira's beating him with some ground and pound. Ref calls it. But there was a questionable strike before then that I think needs addressing. We still don't know with Taliesin Teixeira. I mean, he looked like a menace early in this fight, ran over Tafa, but, you know, unlucky for Tafa getting caught a little bit below the belt and then right after it hit with the perfect elbow. Taliesin Teixeira is an interesting prospect. I mean, the dude's 6'7". That's interesting in itself. I don't know his ceiling. I have no fucking idea what his level's going to be because we get a quick win in 35 seconds. We haven't seen him tested at all. Still, though, interesting that the UFC has a heavyweight striker to watch right now. I don't know, man. I don't see it. I don't believe the hype. I still don't believe the hype. Even after this one, I have question marks around it. I really thought Tafa had a chance striking. I mean, Teixeira shot the takedown. Tafa absolutely stuffed it. Then he was pressed against the cage. He got kneed low and then elbowed in the fucking nose perfectly and went down. It was just a weird fight. But yeah, I guess still feeling very unsure about Taliesin Teixeira at this point. Ultimately, though, probably better for the UFC to be able to market a tall Brazilian heavyweight with all, knockout ability as opposed to like Tafa chinning him and then, I don't know, Taliesin just being like one of those obscure fighters in the heavyweight division. So we'll see. They need heavyweights, man. They just cut Rosenstruik. The top 15 at heavyweight is probably as bad as it's been in fucking long time. What is the top 15? I mean, I know like Mick Parkin. Who else? We got Johanata Janiz at 15, Mays at 14, Parkin at 13, Cortez, Acosta 12, Gaziev 11. Like, fuck, man. 10 is Tuivasa. Dude. The 10 in back is even 9 in back. 9 in back at heavyweight. I don't know. I have my questions about them. I have my question marks around them. So I guess maybe Teixeira fits in with it. Could he potentially beat a Dontel Mays? Maybe. Mays is fighting Volter Walker. It's interesting Mays gets ranked. He goes from unranked to ranked with a loss to Gaziev. Before that, a win over Machado. And before that, a loss to fucking Nascimento, who's not even in the UFC anymore. Yeah. The UFC heavyweight division is fucking terrible right now when you really think about the top 10 to 15. They need Teixeira. They need somebody new. They need him to chin somebody. They need him to sleep somebody, man. Because Johanata Janiz's grappling got exposed recently. It's falling apart, man. Mick Parkin, I mean, he's a decision winner, but he's got minimal knockout. Knocked out what? Lucas Drejski? Holy shit. Holy shit. This is the heavyweight division, bro. The state of the fucking heavyweight division. Parkin's fighting Tybura. I mean, if he beats Tybura, he becomes a legit contender. He might have the technique to beat him on the feet. I just don't know how they'll work in the grappling because Tybura's jits is good. We'll see. That's we're way looking forward. Good luck to Taliesin Teixeira in his next fight, man. We'll see who he fights. Co-main event of the evening. The undefeated record is broken. The Savage lock is absolutely not a lock. Tatiana Suarez gets broken by Weili. Tatiana said, "We break people" in a previous interview. She was broken in this one. Weili Zhang showed her championship pedigree. Aside from round one, it was just dominance. I mean, Suarez was able to take her down in the first round and have some success in grappling. And then Weili was able to finish on top and have, a moment towards the end of the round. But then throughout the fight, I mean, you look at the strike stats. Just look. 12 significant strikes. 12 to 53. Total strikes, 63 to 232. Weili Zhang gave Suarez a lesson. Suarez landed one takedown, and it was the one in the first round, and then failed on 14 takedowns afterwards while also giving up a takedown herself. Weili gave her an absolute beating. On the feet, she pieced her up and rocked her badly on multiple occasions. She had Suarez panic shooting from the outside and just, looking amateuristic, not what you'd ever expect of Suarez, But Weili is that good. Weili is that good, man. The wrestling base of Suarez is definitely there, but against a crafty MMA fighter to the level of Weili, it was no match. I mean, she got absolutely worked. 4 rounds to 1, but like four brutal losses in each of those rounds. She was getting dusted up with big shots. She was failing on takedowns from way out of range, just getting the shit absolutely kicked out of her. She got exposed for sure of having a very minimalist striking game, questionable gas, and just not enough of setup game either into her takedowns. Like she just spam shoots, and normally I guess it works, but Weili's balance was just too fucking good. Weili would defend these takedowns and just beat her up on the feet and beat the hell out of her. Suarez got really dominated. It was a bad beating. Weili had her badly hurt on multiple occasions and just wrecked her. Just showed her a different level. Good win for Weili Zhang. I mean, she's definitely the strawweight GOAT. And she says she's not 35 also. She said her passport's wrong. I guess it's a super fight now. Manon Fiorot and Shevchenko are supposed to fight at some point this year. I think Weili could definitely get the winner. If not, like, what are we doing? Verna, Jandiroba? Like, like, what really is there for Weili Zhang if not a super fight? I guess I feel like there's not much purpose for her to stick around at 115 pounds to what? Beat Yan Xiaonan, beat Tatiana Suarez, beat Jessica Andrade, beat Lemos. The only one is Jandiroba. Is Jandiroba? I thought Jandiroba was booked. Am I wrong? Jandiroba's not booked for anything right now? Well, let's see if Tapology is just not including something. Hold on. Let's see. I swear I thought Jandiroba had a fight booked. Yeah, she's fighting. Yeah, she's fighting Yan Xiaonan. UFC 314. Miami. She's fighting Yan. I mean, if Verna Jandiroba beats Yan Xiaonan, she's obviously the next in line for the strawweight title. So maybe that's it, but I don't hate the idea of Weili getting a dual champ status chance. I know that Shevchenko has to lock horns with Fiorot. That has to happen. Like, as dope as it would be to do Weili versus Shevchenko, to force Fiorot to wait longer after she already had to wait through the Grasso fight with Shevchenko, I just think would be non-fair. It would just be unfair, man. So hopefully she gets the shot. For Suarez, we'll probably see her fight in a year or two. I don't know. She could never fight again. I don't know where her head's at after a bad loss like that, because she was known as such a dominant wrestler and like looked to be that girl. And then for her to lose and then even getting taken down in the fight, like, it has to be a bit debilitating. She was on her back a lot. Weili was doing reversals. She got more control time. Double the control time, essentially. Good win. Good win for Weili. Good win for Weili. Women's strawweight GOAT. Really good. Let's talk about the main event. Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. So, this was, I think, Dricus du Plessis' like true potential being shown, where the guy is just going to walk you down and outstrike you. He's a workhorse. He's going to hit you with harder shots than you hit him with, especially if you're a Sean Strickland. Nasty kicks. He had a lot more tools than Strickland, but I like that du Plessis hit him with that spin elbow, and I don't know, he was varying his techniques. A lot of left high kicks got through. Du Plessis' a crafty fighter. He's got a lot of striking weapons that he works pretty well, and he busted Strickland's nose really bad late in round number 4, and just fucking the whole fight was done. His nose was crushed. I thought DDP won every round. First round, he starts out striking Strickland, lands a little bit more. Same with the second, same with the third, more with the fourth though. Like, he actually cracked he cracked Strickland with some big ones. And then in the fifth, he cracked Strickland with some big shots as well. Mixed in a little wrestling, just one takedown, but more so of a striking lesson that he gave Sean Strickland. Strickland was trying to do his usual, just working jabs from the outside, would follow it with the right hand, but he looked almost lackadaisical out there. Now, I'm not trying to make any excuse for Strickland. Shit, I was on DDP, but at the end of the day, Strickland did have a staph infection coming in. Did that affect his performance? I don't know. He just looked he looked out of it. Like he wasn't committing to shots. I know a lot of the times he peppers shots and it works, but like he was fearful of really trying to walk down Dricus du Plessis. There seemed to be like just a block in that ability. Like he couldn't let combinations fly. He would throw like 1-2, 1, teep kick, 1-1-2. Very rarely, like a few instances where he actually ripped some multi-shot combinations and found some success. But a lot of the time he was just picking his shots from the outside, and him and Dricus du Plessis were kind of going in like a chess match kickboxing battle, and he was just getting out touched. Hit with the bigger shots. DDP cracked him for sure. The, power right that busted his nose was clean for DDP. Bit of blitzing for DDP, but good body kicks, good kicks to the legs. Just a good showcase in his, wide array of striking skills and his insane cardio, because du Plessis was not tired at the end. He just keeps coming. He might look tired. Like it looks like he's breathing through his mouth, but then he just continues to come forward and continues to come forward, and he catches Strickland some more. He had Strickland really uncomfortable and for the most part forced backwards, which is Strickland's recipe for disaster if he doesn't get anything flowing. Where does du Plessis go from here? I mean, the Khamzat Chimaev fight is waiting. Khamzat went to Twitter and he already talked. Like he wasn't impressed with the main event. But Khamzat versus du Plessis has got to be what they do. It's a really big fight. And I feel like Khamzat Chimaev definitely still has like the aura right now. Strickland, when he walked out there, he had no aura. It's like he knew he was going to lose. He looked uncharacteristically nervous before the fight too. And DDP outworked him and got the W over him. And now I think Khamzat Chimaev has to be next. I know Strickland was doing a lot of the trash talking with Khamzat, but ultimately DDP is the one that's going to end up getting the fight. And that's a compelling matchup because when you think about the game of Khamzat Chimaev being so focused on just bullying opponents, running people over, when he runs into a Dricus du Plessis, what happens when Dricus stops the takedown and they're forced to strike? What happens when he backs Khamzat Chimaev up with a big combination, right? What happens if Khamzat has success early but doesn't finish DDP and then can't get him down in 3, 4, and 5? And du Plessis, we know he's relentless. If Khamzat gets tired, he could be absolutely fucked because we know du Plessis doesn't. Now, it's going to be interesting seeing du Plessis fight somebody that should have a clear wrestling advantage, because that changes his ability to press forward now, because Khamzat is going to be able to dictate where the fight takes place. And if du Plessis gets out of hand with anything, relatively wild or opens up for takedowns, Khamzat's going to counter with a big shot. We know Khamzat's going to start fast. It's going to be so interesting to see how Dricus du Plessis deals with somebody who's so confident in their wrestling and also he's got a, gnarly squeeze. Say what you want about Rob Whittaker's jaw already being damaged beforehand. He still destroyed his jaw. I love that fight. He talked to, Pereira a bit, but he's not getting the Pereira fight. If Dricus du Plessis was able to beat Khamzat Chimaev and then Alex Pereira, if he got through Ankalaev, yes, then we can talk about potentially setting up that super fight. That could maybe happen then. But if not for that instance, like I don't think so. But shit, if that comes to fruition, I'd be pretty hyped. That would be pretty crazy. Dricus du Plessis versus Alex Pereira. I really feel like Pereira would snipe him and knock him out. As tough as du Plessis is, I feel like Pereira is way too clean, especially at 205. I don't think du Plessis would have much of a chance. Different at 85, but even then, Pereira's power is sensational. And even though du Plessis can crack a bit, not to the same caliber. And I think Pereira could counter DDP a lot better than like a Strickland. DDP thrives on guys who don't really make him respect the power. Normally, he doesn't ever respect it, but somebody that can really crack him will change things. And I'm not saying that it's going to be Khamzat either. On the feet, I feel like DDP could walk Khamzat down. But with the wrestling that Khamzat brings, that's an interesting threat. The striking of DDP is interesting, right? Because it doesn't look good as far as technical. What you were taught of martial arts and what good technique looks like, maybe it doesn't look like that. But that's what's wrong, is the fact that you look at overly clean technique that's less effective than more wild technique. Things don't have to be perfectly by the book, and the best fighters in the game never do things perfectly by the book. And though DDP's skill set may not look super technical, his effectiveness is there, and he definitely has technique, whether or not people's eyes say, oh, that is what I think of when I think of high-level technique. It's about working in a fight, and du Plessis' style is very effective in fighting. And it worked well here against Sean Strickland, where he clearly beat Sean Strickland. Now there's no more question marks. He beat Strickland at his own game, striking. Timed one takedown, shot for another takedown in the fifth round at the end. Didn't get it. Then they mixed it up a bit on the feet. Strickland was still swinging until the end, but du Plessis had got the better of him through the majority of the exchanges, pretty much the whole fight, and done a lot more damage. He broke Sean Strickland's nose. He badly smushed it and then had Strickland scrambling to put it back into place. Du Plessis showed his level, which I think is extremely high, his gas tank, which I think is one of a kind. And I feel like him versus Khamzat Chimaev is one of the most badass fights that they can do in 2025. They have to get that fight put together. Have to. For Sean Strickland, either an Adesanya rematch, maybe somebody like a Caio Borralho, even a Robert Whittaker. Borralho and Whittaker might be fighting, but could be the loser of that fight. Strickland's still there. Even a Mavov rematch. I don't know how long he's going to need out because of his nose, but in a Mavov rematch is not a bad one. I think there's the Mavov rematch, the Adesanya rematch, or potentially like Borralho, Whittaker loser, something like that, if that fight ends up coming to fruition. I still think Strickland stands amongst the higher level as far as the middleweights go. He just doesn't have big power, and like the way that he fights, it's ineffective against a du Plessis. He doesn't have the power to deal with the du Plessis. He doesn't have the weapons to deal with du Plessis. He's very simple, mostly boxing and front kicks. You know what you get with Sean Strickland. And he refuses against du Plessis to let combinations fly. He's worried. He's nervous. Gets in his head. I don't know. He'll hit him with some okay shots, but he never lets combos go. And du Plessis just has his number. So I never see these two fighting again. That's probably the final one. Du Plessis better than Sean Strickland. Outworks him, outdogs him. Against Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland loses that dog inside because he just recognizes he's against more of a dog than him. Maybe it was the staff a bit too, but he got outworked here. Much worse loss than the first time. This was way more clear. He got fucked up. And Dricus du Plessis looked like a quality champion. And I am more than excited about this Khamzat fight. Holy shit, man. Dricus du Plessis, Khamzat, I hope we get it sooner rather than later, but earliest we get it is this summer. I could even see it potentially in the fall. I think it depends on the Khamzat timeline. Du Plessis is now defending his belt, too. I mean, beat Strickland to win the belt. Defended the belt against Adesanya. Now defends against Strickland. 3-0 in championship fights. Du Plessis' legacy is coming together. And I'm telling you, a win over Khamzat, Du Plessis becomes a certified badass as far as all-time middleweights go. And I would love to see du Plessis Pereira somehow happen. But it's just, they got to go through hoops for that to happen. And there's so many stipulations in the lead up. And, you know, we have to see an Ankalaev win for Pereira, which is not guaranteed. And a du Plessis win over Khamzat, which is definitely not guaranteed. That fight may never come together. But I like how they got, you know, their little interaction. Like after the fight, DDP looked at Pereira. Is there not anybody left, you know, and then stared him down. And Pereira called him out. He said he'd fight him. So that'd be pretty badass. But yeah, seems a bit far-fetched. DDP got to handle business with Khamzat first. And then he's got a Mavov too, who's looking really good on the come up. And that's a hard fight for DDP as well. But a Mavov Strickland too, if the timeline works out, I would like to see them run it back. And I think that's a hard fight for Strickland because Mavov looks damn good right now. Damn good. UFC 312, that's how it capped off with a DDP and still. Now, as far as the card, what did I think of it? Main card was decent. Good women's fight. This is a good fight. These ladies went at it, but, you know, Weili was dominant. This fight was super quick, let down. This was a good brawl. This was an okay fight. What do I score it? Realistically, what do I score it? Bro, I'd be chasing. It's like a 6.5. 6.5, and I might be riding the high off of seeing DDP get it done in the main event streak stay alive. As far as the card as a whole, the prelims were better. The prelims were good. I like the prelims. As far as the record on the card, capped it off with a main event confident pick. Dricus du Plessis takes it home. W City took an L, obviously, with Savage Lock Suarez. Ain't no Savage. The key was taken. My God, man. I was freaking out on live about this. But good for Weili, man. Don't underestimate the Savage. 1-1 there. Had Tafa over Teixeira. Weird instance. Ends quick. Take the L 1-2. And then Crute Bellato draw 1-2-1 with a strange draw on the freaking fight. But yeah, it was a draw. It was a draw for sure. this delusion, man. I had Matthews all week. Then after the weigh-ins at 5 in the morning, because I'm on the Oz time, I'm like, fuck it. I'm going Prado. He's going to win. Stupid call. Stupid pick flip. Then I become 1-3. If you trusted me on Sunday, I was what? 2-2 on 1 draw on the main card. But if you trusted me on Friday at fucking 5 a.m. breaking down the card without sleep, my God, I'm making excuses here. No, I'm not. It's real cope. Then I had fucking Prado. So 1-2-1 main card. But then I went 6-0 on the prelims. Had Gabriel Santos over Jack Jenkins as a confident call. Perfect pick. Had Nolan over Vyacheslav Borshchev. Confident call. Perfect one. Wang Cong over Bruna Brasil. Money call. Topuria over Thicknesse. Perfect call. Rongzhu over Steele, perfect call. Had him by decision expectation. Jonathan Micallef by decision. Beat Jousset, that's a money call. And then Salkilld, Jubli, of course, I had Salkilld. That's a money call. So 7 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw on the card if you followed Friday after the weigh-in. 8 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. If you're like, yo, I trust AJ's tape study over his fucking weird weigh-in intuition that happened with Prado, thinking that he's better than he is. But it is what it is, man. Some badass fucking underdog calls on the prelims that I'm happy about. I'm very thankful that we got the Drickus du Plessis call in the main 2. DDP pulls through, beat Strickland for a second time with the perfect main event pick because I called decision too. So overall, in hindsight, good picks in essence as you look at it overall, but just fucking Suarez fight crushed me. Crushed my heart, man. But it's all good. I just got to loosen up, bro. I got to loosen up. Next card is coming even better, bro. The picks are coming together. I mean, there were some amazing underdog calls that I just knew were going to happen, and not because they were dogs. I saw the pick. But then the Suarez fight, I'm just overconfident in like a what-if factor of her wrestling. Is what it is. Money call in the main event. Capped it off with a win with Drickus du Plessis taking it home. 7-3-1 post-weigh-in. 8-2-1 on the Sunday show. And we're doing the Sunday show later today for the full card of UFC Vegas 102. So predictions dropping soon. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap show. Smash the like button if you haven't. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. W in the comments. If you got nothing to say, but you just want to boost the algorithm for your boy. Let me know what you thought of the card down below. I'm curious what you guys thought. But yeah, decent card. Okay. It was all right. Main card is like 6.5 out of 10, but like I said, could be right in the high of the DDP win. It wasn't a great pay-per-view, but it wasn't an awful one. I think we're quick to overhate. I still had fun watching the fights. I'm still happy the UFC was on, and I still enjoyed Drickus du Plessis, Sean Strickland. I liked the technical battle. There were still good moments on the main card. It's like weird instance with that Tafa fight threw it for a loop, but Weili and Suarez was good. Du Plessis and Strickland was good. Bellato versus Crute was a good back and forth. And Matthews and Prado wasn't a bad fight. They went after it. It was decent. So quality as far as entertainment value, but lacking in name value aside from the championship fights. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Smash the likes on your way out. And if you're new, subscribe. And thank you, guys. 43,600 subs. So I'm very, very blessed, bro. The live stream was popping off. I'll see you guys all week. Thanks for tuning in. Good night. Peace out.